So hi everybody, it's Franz, and today I have a very special guest for you. I have the great honor to welcome Dr. Eric Topol. Hi Eric, thanks for taking the time.
Hello, Franz. Great to join you.
Eric has a very impressive background. I researched a little bit on you, and it's quite amazing what you have accomplished. I have to read this because I can't, memorize all your accomplishments. This is just a little bit that I got from the internet. You are currently the Chief Academic Officer of Scripps Health, and you were promoted to Chairman of Cardiovascular Medicine at Cleveland Clinic at age 36. That's really impressive. You are the co-founder of Cleveland Clinic's Lesner College of Medicine, Director of Scripps Translational Science Institute, Senior Consultant of the Division of Cardiology of Scripps Clinic, Professor of Translational Genomics, the Scripps Research Institute, and some some very interesting things that I also read on Wikipedia about you. You were actually elected by GQ magazine to be one of 12 rock stars of science. And you were actually named Doctor of the Decade by the Institute of Scientific Information for being one of the 10 most cited scientists. This is amazing. You've also written a couple of books, and two of which have really influenced myself personally. Here, this is the Manual of Cardiovascular Medicine. This was my Bible during my training in cardiology, and I really loved it. And your second book, actually, here this is the disadvantage of the new age. It's on here. It's the Creative Deconstruction of Medicine. Also a very good book. And maybe you want to tell our readers and our viewers a little bit about the book.
Sure. Well, it's actually, Franz, called the Creative Destruction of Medicine.
Deconstruction, sorry. Yeah.
No, and that's, of course, from Schumpeter, from Austria. And it's basically the fact that we can digitize human beings now for the first time. Mm-hmm. And when we can do that, that creates opportunities that are unparalleled to reboot the future of medicine. And that, of course, is being able to track each person through biosensors. Most of these are wearable sensors. Someday there'll be more embedded sensors. It includes DNA sequencing and basically all of the omics to understand the biology, what makes each person an individual biologically. And then, of course, anatomically through imaging, like, for example, the portable high-resolution ultrasound. When you add that on top of health information technologies and information systems, electronic personalized health records, this is an era of medicine. I call it a kairos, a supreme moment for the future of medicine. Mm-hmm. Things like smartphones and iPods and e-readers and tablets have changed our daily life in every respect, and not just the mundane things, but even how we behave and think, and how we have become homo distractus because we're attached to all these, surgically attached to all these devices. Mm-hmm. But you add social networking and supercomputing, cloud computing, you've got an infrastructure that is just waiting to be harnessed by healthcare. It's free. It's already set up. Yeah. And now we have these new tools that set up new rules in medicine. And they include genomics and wireless sensors and imaging. So this is just ready to go. The problem is the medical community, our community that we live in, Franz, is totally resistant to change. Yeah. And this is really a problem. We have to override that, and that's how we can. We can democratize medicine because each individual will have access, should have access to all their data.
Do you really think that it's an actual democratization? Thinking of the fact that it still, can be complicated to use those devices. Don't you think that these devices and the technology will kind of select the more intelligent folks, more intelligent patients, And when we're talking about this new type of medicine, are, are we talking about a type of medicine that's only accessible to the smartest, richest? What do you think?
Well, I mean, there is an issue there. We have a digital divide, so we're going to have a digital medical divide too, unfortunately. And I write about that in the book, you know. And I think this is an issue which we have to deal with. But if we can come up with better ways to prevent diseases in the future, they should hopefully affect all individuals. And also, one of the most important things, you know, just last week, this MinION device, which is a USB-sized device that can sequence the genome in minutes. It can be done anywhere in the world, just like all these sensors, anywhere in the world, in the developing world, just as it can be in the developed world. So we see a flat Earth story here. You know, this is really something that is applicable across the board to all people. And so there is, of course, you know, a limitation of this because there is a lack of, you know, access to, for example, just broadband access, no less medical access. So that's something that has to be worked on over time. It's a key issue to promote healthcare worldwide.
Okay. You mentioned social media, and you're active on Twitter. And I mean, so many physicians, as you also mentioned, when you talk to them about Twitter, they roll their eyes and they don't really know what's going on, and they don't want to know, actually, a lot of them. And so...
I understand that. I thought the same thing. I thought it was just like about Lady Gaga or when Ashton Kutcher would go to the bathroom. Then I realized when I got on it, because I was prompted by, you know, colleagues, that this was the essence of getting all the great information before, you know, anyone else. And, you know, it's extraordinary. It's the first site I go to in the morning to see what's going on in the world because it's happening there. It's a pulse. Basically, what you have is an army that searched the web for you to find what's exciting and interesting. And you, of course, you know, it's very easy to use. It's, you know, I'm a big Twitter fan. I recommend it all the time to people. And we know what? That's another thing that demonstrates the resistance of physicians. Because as you say, there aren't so many physicians who are using Twitter, but they're missing out. If they just get on it and start to follow their interests. It doesn't even have to be medical. It could be what their hobbies are. I think they would really find it eye-opening and enjoyable.
Absolutely. How are you using Twitter? Do you use a Twitter client? Do you use it on the web? When do you use it? Do you always have it open?
I don't always have it open, but I usually have like, you know, first thing in the morning and then, you know, a couple of times during the day or evening, I go back to it and see, you know, what I've been missing throughout the day. So I don't have the time to, you know, be on it too much during the day. But what I do find is, you know, by going on 2-3 times a day, I find things that I otherwise would not. I don't have time to go through 100 websites, and this is where I can find, you know, the distillate, the juice, what's really important in the area that I'm interested in, which is this digital medicine world. And I'm interested, of course, in the power of social networking for healthcare. And I'm interested in things, of course, in genomics. So, like, for example, when last week, this surprise announcement of this amazing nanopore sequencing from Oxford. I mean, no one knew it was coming. And then, you know, because I was looking at Twitter, it was a meeting in Florida, a big sequencing meeting. I said, wow, this is big. But, you know, I might not have heard about that until a day or two later if it hadn't been for Twitter. That's the beauty of it.
Do you follow hashtags or just people?
I follow people. I don't usually look at the hashtags, although I know that's another good way to catch up. Sometimes more, you know, I've been only on it for, I guess it's been growing over a couple of years, but I've learned more recently that that's a good way too. If you just go to, for example, digital health or medicine, that's another way to find the people to follow, which is another big important thing. But mainly I've been tracking via people.
Do you have any people to follow that you could recommend that people follow? Who are the best, some of the best resources of information for you on Twitter?
Oh gosh, I mean, there's so many of them. I don't know how to single them out. I mean, you know, one of the guys who I think is really impressive is a journalist at Forbes, Matt Herper. He really seems to be on top of everything that's happening, and he covers, genomics, and so I think that's a really good one. For the wireless, there's a guy named Paul Sunier who lives in San Diego who's exceptional. He seems to track everything. But there's several people. There's some really great people with just remarkable insight. So I follow a couple hundred people, and I can't say enough fine things about what they in order for me to follow, I got to make sure that really providing great information.
In your book, you talk a lot about how technology is going to change healthcare and the health of the patient. But I would be interested in your thoughts about how this whole development is going to change healthcare for the physicians. Like, what do you think how the practice of medicine is going to change? Do you think is there going to be a new specialty, like with the discovery of X-rays for medicine, there was radiology? Is there going to be a specialty of wirelessology or something?
Well, we do have wireless medicine fellows here, scholars,
Really?
and we also genomic medicine. So we do have some people that are spending, 2 years with us, training, special training. We even have a fellow from Ireland that's funded from the Irish government here. So, I think that's a sign of the times. But I don't think we need so many people to be dedicated, as wireless medicine scholars. But that has to be integrated with every physician's practice. Because if you're not used to dealing with sensor data, whether you're, primary care, taking care of diabetes, or if you're a cardiologist taking care of, heart failure and arrhythmia patients, this is going to become routine. And so is genomic sequencing of, most individuals. So you've got to get with this. I don't think it's a niche type of specialty thing. This is actually going to be, part of everyday practice for all physicians. But we have to be our receptors open.
MedCrunch is all about centered around the physician life. It's about physician happiness, success, technology, startups, and whatever. And so what people are really interested in is how to become successful and happy in their careers. And since you're so successful, could you give our readers some advice and on what you think are important aspects, like important skills, important actions, important environments to be successful in medicine?
Well, you're very kind, Franz. I mean, I put my kind of motto in the book about think big and act bigger. And so, just let your imagination run wild. And that's kind of what I've been doing for years is that, what can we do that's transformative? And now, I think this is why I say this is the most exciting time ever for medicine. It's so easy to get excited and inspired by it because, you can see the way it's going to change and how extraordinary it's going to be. I just wish I could go back, to medical school now because this is such a phenomenal time going forward. So now I just think if you just let that creativity and imagination be limitless, that's the key.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Eric.
Thank you, Franz.